to make this webinar possible. Thank you, everyone, wherever you're joining us from Nigeria, across Africa, and around the world. I am Bosin Omofaye, and I'm your moderator for today's event. I'm a financial journalist with Arise News channel. I run a Rise Exchange show on the channel on a daily basis. I'm also the executive director at Frontier Africa Reports, reporting African financial markets has been my core area of operations over the last 30 years. Thank you very much, everyone. And I want to say thank you for bringing everyone on board this Wednesday morning, June the 14th, 2023. Let's get started. This webinar has been put together by the Nigerian Exchange Limited to give us further insights, in particular to the operations of the new African Exchange Linkage project, the Aelp, which is the brainchild of the ASEA Secretariat as well as the African Development Bank Group. And we want to say thank you very much to the leadership of the African Development Bank Group under Dr. Akinwumi Adesina for supporting these iconic projects, which currently support and provide a platform for at least 7 exchanges across the continent, now going to 9 and almost 10 exchanges in a linkage project that had never been seen before. This is a landmark event. I'm sure everyone understands when it was unveiled just a few months ago at the BRVM in Côte d'Ivoire. I have the pleasure of welcoming our guests and our lead speakers to today's event and those who will provide further support and insight into what the trade finance part of this will be, including the payment system that will support the new architecture of a single exchange window for the entire sub-Saharan Africa. It's a proud day for Africa. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming through. Let me start by saying thank you very much and welcoming our chief host. That is Temi Pokuola, who is the Managing Director and CEO of the Nigerian Exchange Limited. Thank you very much for making this possible, Temi. We appreciate putting all this together with the rest of your team at the Nigerian Exchange Limited. But let me also say very particular thank you to the president of the African Securities Exchanges, Mr. Thapelo, who is also the managing director and CEO of the Botswana Stock Exchange in Gaborone. Congratulations, Gaborone Stock Exchange. Botswana Stock Exchange just became a full member of the World Federation of Exchanges. I saw the news a few days ago. I tweeted it. I was excited that we're having more African exchanges becoming members of the World Federation of Exchanges. That's kudos to you and your team down there in Gaborone. Thank you very much. I want to say thank you also so much to the project manager for the Aelp. Thank you very much, the madam who's been in charge of this particular project. Lina, thank you so much for being there. You've been very supportive of all the exchanges and all the dealing firms that are involved in this particular project. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. And also, I want to say thank you to the representatives and executives of our partners for this particular event today. But I'm sure Temi Pokuola, who is our chief host, will have a whole lot to say more about this. I want to leave all of you to talk more about this very important horizon. Not forgetting the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, the PAPSS, which is based in Accra, Ghana. Thank you very much for having a representative, Ugo, who will be speaking to us, member of our panel today, to give us a whole lot more insight into the payment system that will be part of the process of the single exchange project that we're looking at across the continent. Thank you so much for coming and give our regards to Mr. Ogbalu, who is the Managing Director and CEO of the organization out there in Accra, Ghana. Thank you so much. We appreciate where PAPSS is based. Let me give the floor right away now to Temi Pokuola to give us a very robust welcome remark at this webinar. And just a second, Temi, for those who want to put in questions and questions and comments, you have the Q&A button. You can just put your comments in there. We welcome it. We'll try to accommodate as many as possible during the program. Please make them short, straight, and please include the name of your organization and your name if that is possible. Let's give the floor now to Temi Pokuola, who will raise the curtain on this webinar event. Temi, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much for that, Bosin. Let me add to the protocols you observed already. The DGSEC, who I see is going to be represented here by Mr. Mahmoud. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And I stand on the protocols you established. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the board and management of Nigerian Exchange Limited, I welcome you all to the African Exchange Linkage Project Webinar 2023. Globally, Africa is perhaps the most exciting investment destination. The continent presents an incredible investment opportunity for those with a long-term outlook for a few reasons. One of them, of course, is that Africa remains undiscovered from a global investment perspective, resulting in what we think are very low valuations, both in equity and debt security investments, which offer attractive entry points, particularly when compared to valuations in more developed markets. Africa also is experiencing a massive population boom. Currently, 17% of the world's population are Africans. At current rates of growth, Africa is growing by the equivalent population of France every 2 years and will double by 2050. In terms of economic growth, Africa is coming off a low base, translating into GDP growth rates that are significantly higher than in more developed countries as the continent plays catch up and in many cases jumps ahead with the use of new technology enabled by the internet and other methods of operations. One of the major drivers of growth in African stock markets has been the increasing interest of foreign investors. As emerging markets, many African countries offer high potential for growth and investment returns. In addition, many African governments have implemented reforms to improve the business climate and to attract investments. One of these, of course, is the AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, which came into effect in 2021. It aims to create a single market for goods and services across the continent, which could lead to increased trade and investments. Currently, 29 stock exchanges are operating in Africa with a combined market capitalization of $1.6 trillion. Despite these positive developments, African stock markets still face challenges. For example, many exchanges are still small and illiquid, with unstable FX regimes across countries and regulatory burdens, which make it difficult for investors to buy and sell securities across the exchanges. In addition, political instability and economic volatility in some countries can make investing in African stock markets risky. Therefore, the African Exchanges Linkage Project, AELP, which is a flagship project of the African Securities Exchanges Association and the African Development Bank, is aimed to facilitate cross-border trading of securities in Africa. Phase 1 is financed by a grant from the Korea Africa Economic Cooperation Trust Fund, administered by the AFDB. The primary goal of this initiative are as follows. 1, to facilitate and stimulate cross-border securities trading by sending client orders from a stockbroker on one exchange to a sponsoring stockbroker on another exchange for execution. It also aims to enable free flow of trading information among market participants, to support the creation of products and securities on the linked exchanges, and to drive innovation in investment services. It also looks to build capacity around regulatory and policy formulation and standards harmonization. The initial phase of the project aims to create linkages between 7 African capital markets in 4 regions, and together, these represent about 95% of Africa's market capitalization. These markets include the Casablanca Stock Exchange, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the Nairobi Securities Exchange, the Nigerian Exchange, the Stock Exchange of Mauritius, and the Egyptian Exchange. The first phase of the AELP initiative gave rise to the selection of 5 brokers from each of the 7 participating exchanges. In Nigeria, it's noteworthy to note that of all our brokers, Chapel Hill Denham successfully executed a trade on Sonatel shares, that's the public utility sector, with a counterparty, Finance Gestion Intermediation Dakar in Senegal. I'm sure that Mr. Shadari, who's on the call, will speak more to this later. This webinar aims to create more awareness on the immense opportunities and benefits of the AELP to the capital market stakeholders and the investing public. This, we believe, will encourage participation in investments and further enhance initiative and for this webinar, particularly the SEC, our sponsors, Chapel Hill Denham Securities, Codro Securities Limited, Stanbic IBTC Stockbrokers, and the Central Securities Clearing System. We will continue our collaboration with all market stakeholders for the collective growth and the development of the capital markets in Africa. Once again, I welcome all of our esteemed guests to this interactive webinar, and I encourage you to please participate actively in all of the discussions today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Timi Kukola, the Managing Director and CEO of the Nigerian Exchange Limited. Thank you so much for raising the curtain on this 2-hour webinar. Of course, as I said earlier, please remember to keep your comments on. We invite everyone to join this particular and a very important event that's connecting the entire African market via the Aelp project. I'm excited as a financial journalist over the years, see this epoch-making, this groundbreaking event that is going to unite the entire African market on the trade front and provide a whole lot of support to the bigger and the wider intra-Africa trade agreement, which is the AfCFTA. So thank you everyone for being part of this today. Let's I'll go straight now to the president of the African Securities Exchanges Association, Tapelo Sheole. Mr. Sheole, thank you very much. You have the floor. You are the president of ASEA. You're also the managing director of the Botswana Stock Exchange in Gaborone. So once again, congratulations for becoming a full member of the World Federation of Exchanges. And I'm sure you're going to spend about a minute or 30 seconds of your presentation to talk about this new horizon for the Botswana market via the World Federation of Exchanges. Thank you very much. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's so good to have such a marvelous master of ceremony conducting such a very great initiative. I'm very excited, and all of us feel very energized to get such an experienced, energetic somebody conducting the proceedings today. Thank you very much. You are doing so well. As you say in Nigeria, I stand on the protocol already established. I think that's a famous Nigerian saying. Ladies and gentlemen, as the president of the African Securities Exchanges Association, ASEA, I extend a welcome to today's webinar on the Africa Exchange Linkages Project, abbreviated as AELP, hosted by the Nigerian Exchange. Let me applaud the NGX for taking a leadership position in promoting the AELP. We are glad to have each one of you to join us today as we delve into the African Exchange Linkages Project and also explore the opportunities it offers to investors across the broader trading. Ladies and gentlemen, as we commence our discussion, it is crucial to examine the current economic landscape to fully grasp the opportunities that lie ahead. Over the past year, African economies have encountered numerous exchanges, including the lingering impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are still a lot of market having post-COVID effects. The Ukraine war and the Ukraine-Russia war is still having a lot of effects in the African markets. The gray listings of some of the markets in Africa, and also the consequential effect of the of the climate change resulting in food shortages, resource allocation issues in affected countries. However, despite these obstacles, the African Development Bank's Africa Economic Outlook of 2023 report highlights the resilience demonstrated by African economies in the face of this adversity. Moreover, if you look at the projected data, it suggests that the continent's average GDP growth is expected to stabilize at about 4.1% between 2023 and 2024, following a slight decline of about 3.8% in 2021, from 4.8% in 2021. This anticipated growth underscores the continent's potential for sustained economic resilience, and therefore initiatives such as the Africa Exchange Linkages Project are very vital for Africa to rely on itself and also be innovative to have projects that can be done within Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, while operating within this economic climate, we remain optimistic about the future of capital markets, and therefore the Africa Exchanges Linkages projects present a monumental opportunity for investors across Africa and also across the world by fostering deeper integration and connectivity among African capital markets. The AELP enables enhanced liquidity, expanded investment options, and a broader access to diverse asset classes across participating exchanges. Having successfully launched phase 1 of the project in December 2022, connecting 7 exchanges across Africa, we argue Nigerian brokers involved in the project now to reach out to their counterpart in other countries and strive for an expanded cross-border trading across the continent. In phase 2, which funding have already been approved, slated for the rollout in Q3 of 2023, we will expand the number of participating exchanges to a potentially to encompass about 15 exchanges. And it is our long-term aim to grant investors across all the 23 African Securities Exchange Association members, ASEAN, across Africa, thereby enabling them to maximize returns and take advantage of the wide array of investment prospects across Africa. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, we are cognizant of the fact that sub-Saharan African countries, like others, have recently faced significant exchange rate pressures. I hear something have just happened in Nigeria today. I hope we'll hear more about that in the deliberation. Primarily driven by external factors such as tighter financing controls, adverse terms of trade, which are expected to persist. Currency depreciations have also contributed to higher inflations, increased public debt, and a deterioration in the trade balance in the short term. We acknowledge that these challenges, while affecting the entire continent, also impact the post-trade processes within the Africa Exchange Linkages project. To address these issues and facilitate efficient cross-border trading through African Exchange Linkages project, ASEA, under my presidency, as it was done by the Nigerian Exchange a few months ago, signed a memorandum of understanding with PAPS, the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, in April 2023, to work hand in hand to enhance cross-border trading efficiencies for all investors. And we are very excited because PAPS is a Pan-African initiative run and managed by Africans, and it leads to a greater collaboration within all our trading possibilities in Africa. And therefore, the executive committee under my leadership have actually signed an MOU with PAPS to start the project to deal with post-trade implementation. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we call upon the broad participation of Nigerian investors, both retail and institutional, to collectively propel the advancement of the Africa Exchange Linkages project and continue to contribute to the sustainable growth and the resilience of the African market. And as my energetic and MC have said today, it was a pleasure that this past week, Botswana was welcomed to the World Federation of Exchanges, and together with Namibia was also welcomed to be a member. And this, I think, opens up possibilities to all the other markets in Africa, because when you join the World Federation of Exchanges, you are joining the elite club of exchanges across the globe. And therefore, it also opens up opportunities for you as an exchange when we join to attract much of the foreign capital, because some of the international institutional investors globally do not invest in markets that are not members of the WFE. And therefore, by Botswana and Namibia joining, it means that we will now be able to attract various capital to our market. And also, we will also confine ourselves to adhere to the international best practice and principles, and therefore increasing the confidence and the integrity of our market. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us, and I wish you an engaging and insightful webinar ahead. I thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chapelo Shiole. Thank you, the president of ASEA, as well as the managing director and CEO of the Botswana Securities Exchange. Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments and bringing us up to speed on where we are right now as far as the Aelp project is concerned. I'm trying to get more exchanges on board until we can onboard the entire securities exchanges on the African continent. Thank you very much. And for the memorandum of understanding in terms of post trade implementation. I'm sure Osita Dima will bring us up to speed on that. He's from the PAPSS. He's standing by within this webinar time. Thank you so much. We appreciate your comments. Thank you, and congratulations for Botswana and Namibia becoming the full members of the WFE. Let's move on to get the views of the special comments, as it were, goodwill message from the Securities and Exchange Commission of Nigeria, which is the country's market regulator. Thank you very much to the Director General of the SEC, Mr. Lamido Yuguda, who is unavoidably absent, but he sent a very able official of the SEC to be part of this particular webinar, and that is Mr. Mahmoud Mukhtar. Mahmoud Mukhtar will be speaking towards the message of the SEC, as the SEC sits not just in Nigeria, but also be part of the West Africa and the wider African securities exchange market from a regulatory point of view. Mr. Mahmoud, you have the floor on behalf of the Securities and Exchange Commission Director General, Mr. Lamido Yuguda. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, guests, and good morning. I feel really highly honored to present these opening remarks on behalf of the management of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and in particular, the Executive Commissioner of Operations, Mr. Dayo Obisan. At this important webinar, which is titled Exchange Linkage Project Trade Across Borders, organized by the Nigerian Exchange Limited as part of the Exchange Market Development Initiatives. The main objective of the webinar is to educate market stakeholders on the general overview of the African Exchanges Linkage Project and its operations, as well as benefits across Africa. The African Exchanges Linkage Project is an initiative of the African Securities Exchanges Association and the African Development Bank, which covers 9 stock exchanges across Africa, including NGX, and is aimed at facilitating cross-border trading of securities in Africa. Linking of securities exchanges across Africa will no doubt enhance cross-border trading within the African capital markets and will further boost the competitiveness of NGS and the Nigerian capital market in general. African Exchanges Linkage Project is in line with one of the key strategic objectives of the revised Nigeria Capital Market Master Plan, which seeks to realize the integration of capital markets in the West African sub-region. And in realizing this objective, the SEC, under the auspices of the West African Securities Regulators Association, WASRA, and the West African Capital Market Integration Council, WACMIC, has been working tirelessly to achieve this aspiration. It is worthy of note that one of the major benefits of the African Exchanges Linkage Project is that cross-border securities transactions will deepen the Nigerian capital market and provide more investment opportunities for both institutional and retail investors in Nigeria. Also, the project will further open up the Nigerian capital market to potential investors in those countries of the link exchanges. As the apex regulatory authority responsible for regulating the Nigerian capital market, the Commission has adequate regulations that govern cross-border securities transactions, which provide for relevant areas, including the divestment of securities. As part of effort of promoting cross-border securities transactions, the SEC in the year 2020 issued guidelines for cross-border issuance of fixed income securities by statutory bodies in WASRA member countries. As part of its regulatory and developmental functions, the SEC is committed to providing all regulatory support that will further deepen and enhance the transparency of the market. Equally, the Commission is supportive of all initiatives that will impact positively the development of the capital market. NGS plays a very significant role in the Nigerian capital market, and therefore the SEC remains supportive of the exchange in the key role it plays towards developing the market. I commend the NGS for organizing this webinar and welcome all participants and encourage them to pay more attention in order to derive its maximum benefits of educating market stakeholders on the operations of the African Exchanges Linkage Project. Thank you very much.
We're very grateful for having you. Thank you so much, Mr. Mahmoud Mokhtar, on behalf of the head of the SEC Nigeria, that is Mr. Lamido Yuguda, as well as the Commissioner for Operations. Thank you so much for delivering that very short but very incisive goodwill address to this webinar organized by the Nigerian Exchange Limited and the ASEA Secretariat, the African Securities and Exchange Association, of course, in partnership with a number of big firms in Nigeria, such as Chapel Hill Denham and Codros Capital Securities and a couple of others, investment banking group that are part of the AELP project and ecosystem already. So we're very happy to have every one of you. Thank you very much for speaking on behalf of the SEC Director General. Now, there's one person I've been trying to lay my hands on over the last couple of months since the AELP project was inaugurated, and that was Ms. Lina Tony. Tony has been very busy. I understand. I've been trying to lay hands on her, get her to be interviewed, and I was really envious and jealous a few days ago, Lina, when you did that interview with my colleague in Nairobi at the Securities Exchange, my young colleague there who interviewed you just a few days ago. And I was hoping one day I've got to get you for that interview. But I think we're getting closer very much. And I'm sure we've spoken for a couple of times online for the past few months about this project and all that. And I think you have the floor right now, Lina, to bring everyone up to speed. You are at the heart of this project in terms of how it works. You see all the parties involved and how the entire ecosystem and the mechanism of the AELP project will work. So we want you to bring us the technical side of things and tell us where we are right now, how much progress we've made over the past few months and what really lies ahead. In particular for our broker dealers, those who are dealing members, and that's the investors as well, both here and abroad, who will be looking to be part of the new AELP project. Thank you very much, Lina. You have the floor. Then we'll get an interview after this.
Absolutely.
Karibu.
I didn't realize that you had been trying to get a hold of me, but now here I am. We can farm up a date, right?
Yes, we will. Karibu,
Yes.
Asante.
All right. Thank you very much. And again, I will also follow the protocols that have already been observed. And I would like to congratulate, in particular, the Nigerian Exchange for this great webinar, and thank you very much for supporting the project. And also, I would like to thank the president of ASEA, Mr. Shole, for the great introduction to the AELP and also to the association. So again, my name is Lina Tonui, and I am based at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, which hosts the African Securities Exchanges Association Secretariat in Nairobi. So here, without much further ado, I will share my screen so that I can, share the presentation, so we can go directly into the technical process of the AELP. So when you see my screen, please let me know.
Okay, we can see your share screen. Lina, thank you very much. Just move it a little bit to the left from my point. Sure. Yes, just a little bit to the left, and you've got some very informative materials here for us.
Absolutely. Just give me a second. Let me share the full screen.
Okay, here we
great.
go. Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so the speakers that have gone ahead of me have already given an introduction. Again, as you're all aware, the project is an initiative of the African Securities Exchanges Association and the Africa Development Bank. And the aim, or rather the main mission of the African Securities Exchanges Association is to engage African capital markets ecosystem in order to foster capital mobilization, promote sustainability, and enhance financial inclusion for the benefit of Africa's economic development. So again, just following up on Mr. Shole's presentation about the common challenges that face Africa. We, through the research that was done by the association and the Africa Development Bank, you do realize that a lot of the African capital markets face insufficient liquidity, which also means high cost of trading, an increased cost of raising capital, and a lot of them are also characterized by low returns. There's also the lack of diversity in terms of product offerings and limited investment products and securities that are offered across these markets. And some of the issues are also related to the regulatory blockages and lack of harmonization of these regulations across the continent. So then what opportunities does the Aelp provide? So in terms of continent-wide opportunities, there's definitely a lot of opportunities through integration. The domestic capital markets can be developed through a regional approach. And this will be through the facilitation of cross-border trading, which is the primary goal of Aelp. And also the harmonization of market infrastructure, which is also something that is very key to the Aelp. And then also investor education. Investor education meaning raising awareness about the products that exist in the different markets, and just basically having investors understand the opportunities that exist in across the continent. So, and also removing constraints on capital transactions and movement will also ease the cross-border trading. So you have already been briefed about the objectives of the project, but then if you allow me, I'll just take a quick overview. The objectives of the Aelp is to boost Pan-African investment flows through the creation of the linked exchanges, and to enable the seamless trading of securities on participating exchanges, and to also facilitate access to and free flow of information and market data across the continent, and then to promote innovations in products, and also just give access to different investors to these products that are listed in the various markets. And also to build capacity for regulatory and policy formulation and standards harmonization. And then again, the very big one, to address the lack of depth and liquidity in African capital markets. So I will not go through the list of the participating exchanges again, but then I just want to highlight that, as has been mentioned earlier, we have successfully connected 7 exchanges, and through these linkages, we have also, connected brokers that are participating from each of these exchanges. And we anticipate now, as we go into phase 2, to have a total of 15 exchanges which will represent about 22 countries, and approximately 90% of Africa's market capitalization, and give access to over 1,500 securities that will eventually be listed or accessible across the continent. So where do we fit in the AFCFTA? Going by the current processes of the continent-wide movement to enable cross-border trading, the Aelp is also, it's the design of the Aelp will also, enable movement of trades and capital across the continent. So based on the African Union's vision of 2063, we seek to also facilitate that process through the connectivity of exchanges, and eventually having a network of Pan-African stock exchanges. So again, through the collaboration and through the work that has been done through the ASER signed an MOU with the African Union in July of 2022, and this is mainly to collaborate on the implementation of the Aelp and other aspects of cross-border trading that will facilitate, that will also improve the free movement of capital and the development of the African economy as a whole. So again, through the support of the AFDB, we received a grant of $980,000 to implement phase 1 of the project. And that also covered, it covered 3 components. First, the information technology infrastructure for stock exchanges, linkages. And through this, we have procured the Aelp Link technology, which we call the Aelp Link trading terminal, which will enable cross-border trading. And then the second component is capacity building, where stakeholders across the markets have been engaged, or rather will be engaged, in order to familiarize themselves with the aspects of cross-border trading. And then also the third component is project management, which again has been hosted by the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So what do we expect to gain from this linkage? Our expectation is that we will have linked exchanges that will bring together all the markets with market capitalization of over 1.5 trillion. This linkage, right, for now, we only started with the 7, but in the long run, we do envision that we will, link all the ASEAN members so that they are accessible through the Aelp link. And also, as more and more eyes, face toward Africa, we do hope to, increase visibility to both domestic and global institutional and retail investors, and just bring visibility of opportunities that are available within the African markets. And then also give access to investors to diverse investment products, whichever product that has been listed across the respective markets. And also for those, when you do not find the product that you're looking for in your market, then you should be able to trade in different products across the different markets that will be linked. And also, it's right now when any investor wants to invest in a foreign market, they have to, do a lot of research to go to that market, find partners in those markets, and also just do a lot of due diligence. But what Aelp hopes to do is to provide a one-stop shop to all these significant markets, saving transactional and operational costs, and also just basically saving time, so that when an investor wants to invest in Africa, they will come through Aelp to access all these other markets. And it will also give business expansion opportunities to different companies that are listed in these markets, and also just to support innovations across the continent. And in the long run, we do hope that we can facilitate a Pan-African capital raising through IPOs, and having different investors from the different markets invest in these IPOs. So in short, we are giving access to 9 securities exchanges for now, but again, we will expand that number to over to include all the exchanges that are listed, that are members of ASEAN, and we will also give access to more than 30 brokers currently that have connected, and that number will again increase as we onboard more members. So right now, the selection of the brokers has been done through the securities exchange, local exchanges, who have provided a list of 5 brokers per exchange. But Nigerians go big or go home. We have 6 participating members for now, but we do also anticipate that over time we will have all members connected to this platform. And again, I just want to point out that this is a voluntary participation process. And so as we open up, opportunities for brokers, we will welcome all brokers to participate. And so the 9 exchanges that are currently members, will give access to at 16 countries. And again, in phase 2, as we onboard to a total of 15 exchanges, we will have approximately 22. We will have 22 countries connected or linked through this. And we will be able to provide access to all types of securities that are listed, and also give access to Africa's largest companies that will be listed. So what are our achievements to date? So we completed phase one, as has been mentioned, and we completed phase one and launched officially on the 7th of December of 2022. And what prior to that, all the work that went into the, interconnectivity of securities exchanges and brokers from the 7 exchanges. And now we have a total of 31 broker firms that are connected. But again, we're working to increase the network of brokers that will be connected to the Aelp trading link. And so we tested the trading terminal, and we went live on the 17th of November. Sorry, that should be 2022, not 2023. I like superpowers, but I haven't seen that far yet. So, but that will be 17th of November 2022. And we have, as Temi had highlighted before, we have had successful cross-border trades that have been executed by Chapel Hill and BRVM, and we continue to push for more trades between the counterparty brokers. And we have completed capacity building forums for, all the market players, regulators, asset managers, and other stakeholders that are in these markets. And we also, through the legal committee of the Aelp, have completed the legal and regulatory framework and have also completed a draft counterparty agreement that is currently being used by the brokers to sign counterparty agreements and to start the trading process. So through the establishment of the African Stockbrokers and Securities Dealers Association in 2019, we have also supported the securities dealers and stockbrokers to collaborate throughout the markets towards the implementation of the Aelp. Excuse me. And then again, as had been mentioned before, we have through again the presidency of Mr. Shiole, we have signed, Azea has signed an MOU with PAPS in April of 2023. And the purpose of that is to ease the cross-border payments and settlement of trades. So right now we will begin the implementation of that MOU and to figure out how that will work. So the Aelp operational framework, because this, the process will be a sponsored access where a broker from Nigeria will be sponsored by a broker in Nairobi to trade in securities that are listed in the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So the securities will stay on the host exchange. They remain listed in the host exchange, so there's no movement of securities across borders. And then all listed securities, we do call them the African listed securities. All those will, remain where they are. And then sponsored access brokers right now are signing counterparty agreements with each other to give access to their local markets for cross-border investors. And then the other very key aspect of this linkage is, again, information. So live market data has been, connected onto the Aelp link. Each of these exchange has provided live market data, and we have connected these exchanges and aggregated the market data on the Aelp link trading terminal. So other information sharing will, in the long run, include research, which is also, very key for cross-border trading, and also just for information about, investments in general. So clearing and settlement at the moment will remain on the host market. The sponsoring broker will be responsible for all the clearing and settlement of the trades in their host market using local currency and ensuring that they abide with their local regulations and processes. So right now, the payment process, the payment and settlement, is a separate process, and this is something that will be done by by the brokers to facilitate that. But as we go ahead, what we will do again through the collaboration with PAPS will be to and to automate that process. So making it more practical. So we have Bet, who is a Kenyan investor who wants to buy shares in the NGX. So Bet will reach out to his Kenyan broker, who will already have done some background work, first of all, to get connected through this process here. The broker will be connected to the Aelp link for cross-border trading, and the NSC will already be connected to the Aelp link for market data. So Bet will reach out to his broker, who will then reach out to the Nigerian exchange broker, who will place a trade in the NGX on his behalf through the Aelp link. So brokers will facilitate cross-border trading through this process, the cross-border trading, but then will forward the trade to their local market through this process. So settlements will follow. So first of all, the Kenyan broker will provide KYC processes to the Nigerian broker, and then also transfer funds to settle the process. So again, once the trade goes through this process, then it is cleared in the Nigerian exchange. And the return is also applicable where Obina from Nigeria will also be able to trade in the Nairobi Securities Exchange through a sponsored, through the sponsoring broker in Kenya. So this process is very key. The sponsored access agreement process is very key because we have done a lot of research, and we have we work with brokers that have been listed or that have been that have gone through the processes and approvals from their stock exchange. So in a nutshell, that's how trades will happen across borders. So what are the next steps then? What we hope to do is, as we go into phase 2, as Mr. Shiole had mentioned, we have been, as the Africa Development Bank has approved funding for phase 2. We are in the final stages of signing the grant agreement. And what we will do in phase 2 is to scale to a potential 15 participating exchanges representing 22 countries. We will also increase the number of participating brokers, from the current 31. We will open that to also include the brokers from these exchanges. And the onboarding, and then the next process will be the expansion of the Aelp link to accommodate the additional exchanges and also to accommodate additional brokers. So communication and information dissemination is, key to this process. That's what we are now, working on. The exchanges facilitate information sharing within their local countries. And again, a big thank you to NGX for facilitating this webinar as one of the processes for increasing communication and awareness on the project. And again, I do look forward to that interview once we have found a date, just to again share information across the continent. Then the other process will be a research hub. We do hope to have research on all the securities that are listed in the different countries, accessible through one platform, through one hub. And this we will work very closely with brokers and analysts across the different markets to provide, credible research that will be, aggregated through the research hub. So as we now go again into phase 2, is that we will be researching into cross-border post-trade processes and the collaboration with us. And we are working through the different exchanges and regulators for some form of regulatory harmonization. We do realize that every exchange has unique regulatory policies, and what we do hope to do is to harmonize some of those and to also increase on the commonalities that exist and work on eliminating regulations that prohibit cross-border trading. So as we go into phase 2, we're also doing a survey on market readiness for the participating exchanges, or rather the potential exchanges that will participate in the Aelp. And we through ASEA and the Africa Development Bank came up with a set of different categories that will facilitate that analysis. And we look into the regulatory considerations and policies of all these markets. We look at the custodian settlement processes, and how easy it is to also onboard international investors through KYC policies. We look at the foreign exchange management and FX settlement processes in all these markets, and just the general market environment. How conducive is it for foreign investors? Then we also look at taxation on investments and securities dealing, and then order routing systems just for technological compatibility. So all the exchanges that participated in phase 1 also went through the same assessment, and we will follow the same for all new members. And just to point out, this is just an analysis to understand, and not to prohibit participation, but mostly to understand the uniqueness of each market, and to work towards enabling the integration with those markets. And so what then are we asking from investors, from exchanges, from stockbrokers? Wide participation is key to the success of the Aelp, and so we call on broker members to complete the counterparty agreement processes, and also to increase the networks that they have already established within their countries to all these others. So we will also continue to liaise with the exchanges and capital market regulators and other policy and regulatory authorities in each of these markets to facilitate cross-border trading of securities, because again, an integrated market then will improve first the economy. Will first improve the economy of the local market, and then also improve the economy of the continent. The continent in general. So thank you.
Great.
I think that is it from me.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lina, Tony. Thank you so much, Asante. Merci beaucoup. We appreciate that so much. Thank you so much. We appreciate that very robust presentation. Because again, as the project manager, I'm sure you're the heart of the entire Aelp. So we had to allow you a bit of more time to really break it us down, bring it us everyone to speak. We appreciate how the ecosystem will work and what we're doing moving forward. Thank you so much for that presentation. The interview we were to have was just only one question. It's going to be the best interview you've ever had, because there's only one question. And I have only one question for the interview, so I'm going to ask the question now. The question is, this is beautiful, as good as it can be. But my question is, how will I report this? Where do I get the data to report the daily transactions on this to my viewers on television and online and everywhere around the world, on radio as well? So I want to know, where will I get the trading data for the day, the volume, the stocks that were traded and all of that? It's very good to have this Pan-African exchange, but the question is, how well will the media get the daily information? Those of us who are financial journalists, and for my colleagues who are also reporting African markets from around the world, Where do we get this? I get the Eurostock 600 data. I know where to go to get that for the Pan-European exchange. But then for this Pan-African project, the Aelp, where do I get who trade what volume, at what price does it trade, at what price does it close? So I think it's something that has to be quickly thought about, that as this is making progress, we need to know how do we disseminate information to the media. And I want to have my statistical data every day and say, this is what the intra-Africa market looks like today across these 7 or 9 exchanges. These stocks were traded, this is the volume, these are the opening price or the closing price, these are the price movement in terms of the percentage gain or decline, volume that was traded on Safaricom versus Sonatel, MTN, Airtel Africa, and other big names such as that across board. So think about it, Madam Ms. Lena. That's the only question I have for the interview.
All right, great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm sure, thank you very much, because you've covered a lot of questions a number of questions that are coming through from our participants. We have close to 400 participants from around the world right now watching this, following this. So I'm going to allow Ositadima Ugo, who is the Chief Technology Officer at PAPSS, to speak to us, because some of these questions are coming through for the PAPSS in terms of what currency will be used, what will be the exchange rate, what are the risks around that, all of that. This is something we'd like to hear from you. Let's give you the floor. Ositadima from Accra, Ghana. Akwaba, if that's where you are speaking from this afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Please, can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, and we can see your screen sharing as well. Beautiful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ositadima, who is my name. I lead the technology and operations in PAPS Afreximbank. I wish to thank everyone for this opportunity. I will be presenting PAPS, what we do, and what we have been doing, and what we are doing to ensure that we bring everybody on board. What is it about PAPS? Afreximbank, you cannot talk about trade in Africa, movement of goods and services from point A to B without talking about payment. And today in Africa, the challenges, one of the challenges have always been, how do we make payment across the border without mounting pressure on the economy? And Afreximbank launched PAPS. In 2019, the initiative was launched, and the objective is to ensure that it supports the African Continental Trade Agreement to ensure that payments are made easily amongst investors in Africa. So this initiative is supported by the African Union, supported by the AFC-FTA Secretariat and every other body. And the central banks across Africa are the ones actually sitting on the board of PAPS. PAPS is one of the key pillars. We have 4 pillars that supports the AFCFTA initiative. And we have the trade finance, we have the African Trade Gateway, and the adjustment facility. But PAPS is in the midst of it all, because that is the engine for the payments to be made. It is a financial market infrastructure. And what do I mean by this? Sometimes we encounter people ask, okay, maybe, oh, there are other payment platforms in Africa today. Yes, we know. PAPS is not in competition with the different payment initiatives, but those payment initiatives, one, they exist in silos, in that we have regional African countries with different payment initiatives, but those payment initiatives do not go beyond the region. PAPS is a financial market infrastructure that helps to aggregate those things and helps to ensure that we extend the payment footprints of those payment initiatives from one region to the other, and also make it seamlessly, because these payment initiatives today, oftentimes most of them are done asynchronously. It takes time to get from point A to point B. But PAPS is here to eliminate and remove some of these cobwebs and ensure that the payment is made and received instantly from point A to point B. Now, how does it work? PAPS works in a way that it eliminates the correspondent banking relationship that we have today. This is the current payment landscape today in Africa. where somebody is making payment from Nigeria on the left-hand side to Ghana. So a payment, I would say 2 countries separated or could be reached within 45 minutes of flight time. But payment often takes like 2 or 3 days to go from point A to point B, because these payments will go, a sending bank in Nigeria will have a correspondent bank sometimes seated in New York, and the receiving bank in Ghana may also have a different corresponding bank seated in either somewhere in the US or the UK or anywhere. Now, these correspondent banks, money will need to leave the sender bank in Nigeria, go to its own correspondent bank, then leaves that correspondent bank to the beneficiary correspondent bank, then to the beneficiary bank. Now, in the course of all this, the sender loses visibility over this money. You cannot tell exactly when the money will reach the beneficiary on the other side. And each of the players in this ecosystem will collect one charge or the other. And this transaction is going to be in USD. So at the end of the day, it comes very hard on the person that's sending this money, because he has to include as part of the transaction cost, the cost of services, which is the cost that these correspondent banks will collect. Now, in the midst of all this is PAPS. PAPS comes to sit in the middle, ensure that this payment happens from point A to point B instantly, and no correspondent banking relationship is required. In other words, the sender or the initiator of this payment, all you need to do is just approach your bank, or from your mobile phones or different channels that your banker may have exposed PAPS to, initiate this cross-border payment. And the good thing in PAPS is that as you are sending this payment from Nigeria, for instance, PAPS is able to query, do an account inquiry, and show you the details of the customer that is receiving it on the other side. And this money leaves point A to point B instantly within 2 minutes maximum. In fact, since we have started transacting, we have maximum of 20 seconds that we have had for transaction to move from point A to point B. What are the use cases today? We have a typical use case of an investor seated in Ghana that wants to buy stock in Nigeria. And what the investor needs to do is just approach your bank or use any of the channels that the bank has provided, initiate your payment, supply the details of the recipient in Nigeria. You'll see the details and initiate this payment. The payment simply debits the investor's local currency account. In this case, if this money is coming from Ghana, you are debiting, investor is debiting, or the bank is debiting investor's CDs account as against what exists today, where you need to buy USD, have a domiciliary account. No, the bank will debit your CDs account, and automatically the amount is received in Naira on the other side. So you just initiate, investor in Ghana approaches the bank or uses any of the bank's channels, initiate this payment, automatically it comes to PAPS. PAPS validates that this customer exists and the bank exists. The bank plays in PAPS or is onboarded in PAPS already. An acknowledgement is sent to the sending bank in Ghana that the receiver has received this money, and both parties will acknowledge that, and the service will be offered. So this is used for payment for goods and services. A second use case is a typical scenario where Matthew, seated in Uganda, wants to make some payment to somebody seated in South Africa. So Matthew in Uganda doesn't need to go start sourcing for USD. All you need is just approach your bank, and the bank debits the local currency account in this case, and the receiver on the other side receives rand immediately. This eliminates the correspondent banking leg and makes this payment cheaper for both the sender and even the bank itself. So because no correspondent banking charge is required in this case. Now, the benefit that this brings to us is that payment now occurs in seconds as against sometimes days that this payment will take. And there is an instant anti-money laundering scanning and sanction screening. PAPS is integrated with the latest technology and also plug into the best of sanction screening sites like a World Check, and it's going to be difficult to use PAPS for money laundering, even if the originating bank fails to do a KYC, necessary KYC and scanning. Those transactions will get stopped in PAPS, and PAPS will send an alert to the compliance team of the originating bank, giving reasons why the transaction was stopped. So perhaps, like some people will ask, okay, could this be a platform for money laundering? Is practically impossible, because we have AML, anti-fraud, instant sanction screening analysis that is able to detect that this could be a potential risk, and those transactions are stopped, and the initiators of the transactions are alerted for the bank to confirm and do necessary KYC. Now, what is the next benefit for both the sender and the receiver and the bank itself? One is that, only two parties are involved here, just the sender bank and the receiver bank. Today, what exists is that even when a transaction fails in some of the payment cross-border solutions that we have today, you have a dispute that could run into days and weeks and months, because the sender knows only his bank. The bank knows the correspondent bank knows the other correspondent bank. So whenever there is a problem, it becomes very difficult to resolve issues. But here we have only just two parties involved, the sender bank and the receiver bank, perhaps sitting in the middle to broker this transaction. The transparency and clear visibility that PAPS has provided to both the sender and the receiver, and the fact that these transactions, only local currencies are required from both the sender and the receiver will receive the local currency. This will totally reduce the pressure that sourcing for FX from the black market, alternative markets, mounts on the country's reserve. This will completely eliminate that, and the third-party dependency is completely also eliminated in this case, making it easier for transactions to flow. What is our network today? Where are we connected? We have been onboarding different countries. As we onboard the countries, first we onboard the central bank of a country so that we can have the necessary regulatory backing. Then we start onboarding the commercial banks, the different fintechs in that country. Today, we have Central Bank of Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Guinea, and Liberia fully onboarded. We are currently onboarding Djibouti in East Africa, we're onboarding Egypt, we're onboarding Zimbabwe, Zambia. We are in East Africa also working currently, we are in Nairobi, working with the different banks in the Eastern region, just to ensure that we get banks in different locations onboarded. Now, we work with switches also in the region. We have Nigerian Interbank Payment Settlement System with NIPS. We have GIBS, which is the switching, national switch in Ghana. We have the GAM switch in Gambia, the R switch in Rwanda. We have strategic partnerships with different bodies, as you can see here, the NGX, the ASE, and the rest of them. These are different partners working with PAPS. And today we have over 60 banks. These banks at different stages in their go-live processes. We have over 30 banks that are live already and transacting within Ghana and Nigeria, Liberia, Gambia, transacting. So while we have other regions, because the process is when a bank completes the technical integration we open up that bank, the bank to start transacting. I want to also assure the investors in Nigeria that within the week, within the coming week, we have a Central Bank of Nigeria that will be addressing the Nigerian market, and after that address, they open up all the transactions coming from Nigeria to the other regions, because we have gotten different people asking transactions going out of Nigeria, and we are good to go now. The central bank will address the banks very soon, and after that address, we'll have a massive outflow from the Nigerian market. So we wish to also thank especially the stock exchanges, especially NGX, for their support, and the other stock exchanges. And we can confirm that investors in Ghana have been also trading in Nigeria, courtesy of the NGX team, and I wish to say thank you for all the support that they have given us, the ASCA. Thank you for all the support that you are giving us, and we can assure you that it is our mandate to ensure that the 54 African countries are onboarded on PAPS, and more commercial banks are also onboarded as we progress. It's a journey, but we are sure that we will soon arrive at our destination. Thank you. I will stand by and take questions. Thank you, sir.
That's Mr. Osita Dimagut of the PAPSS. Thank you very much, the Chief Technology Officer. Thank you. We appreciate your presentation and bringing us up to speed on what is next and what's happening soon from Nigeria, and of course across all the markets where the new Aelp project is currently on board. And of course, those exchanges and other countries that are not yet on board via the exchanges, I'm sure this is also a learning curve for everyone to be prepared and understand how the system works before they are onboarded. So this is for everyone in across the ecosystem, including from central banks to market dealers and investors, to understand how this works. Thank you so much. We appreciate this very robust presentation. Thank you so much. Let's get a little bit more on the side of the clearing and settlement system, and the CSCS, which is Nigeria's Central Securities Clearing System, PLC, is a major partner in this particular project, the AELP. So let me just hand over very quickly to Babangida Yahaya, who is will be speaking on the account opening for investors and all of that into the entire AELP project. Thank you so much, Mr. Yahaya. Please, you have the floor for a couple of minutes. How does the CSCS come into play from what Lina spoke about earlier, and what Stadima just spoke about as well as the AELP working system? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you very clearly. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and I bring you good tidings from my Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Haruna Jallo Waziri, who would have loved to be in this session, but are here unavoidably absent. I would also like to stand on already established protocols and to thank the previous speakers for their remarks and presentations, having set the tone for my own presentation. So I'll take it from there, and we would like to share a very short presentation with you. I think that a lot has already been said from the previous speakers about the AELP initiative, which primarily seeks to facilitate cross-border trading of securities, to also integrate capital markets and foster investment flows within the region. This objective obviously necessitates the entry of foreign entities into the Nigerian market, as it will also apply to other markets within the scope of the AELP initiative. This also means that these foreign entities will need to be onboarded to facilitate their access into the Nigerian markets, obviously. And I continue? Okay, I thought I heard.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I was saying this also means that these foreign entities will need to be onboarded to facilitate their access to the Nigerian market, and likewise in other countries. So I think that it's important to highlight that there are extant regulations that guide how this can be done, particularly from a KYC perspective. I like the fact that when Lina was speaking earlier, she also touched on issues around KYC, right, in progressive phases of this particular initiative. So today, just to give proper context, trades that are executed on the floor of the Nigerian exchange have to pass through an investor CSCS trading account. What this means is that any investor or participant that seeks to trade in the Nigerian market must have what we call a CSCS trading account. The market structure as it is today also enforces that investor CSCS accounts are open through market intermediaries. And I'm speaking about brokers here. So an investor, be it a domestic or local or foreign investor who seeks to open a trading CSCS account cannot approach the CSCS directly without such a request going through a broker, right? And just to provide more context, so I did talk about a statutory requirement in terms of account opening. And I would just like us to look at some of them here. The key statutory requirements for account opening, as we have it in the rules of the market today. So from looking at this, we would see that having talked about these statutory KYC requirements for opening accounts, I would also mention that we have various account models. However, the NGX has also reviewed these models and identified that the nominee account model would perhaps be the most suitable approach for admitting foreign participants in the market at this time. And that's why this presentation is essentially going to focus on the account opening under the nominee account structure. So I'd like us to take a look at these key statutory KYC requirements. The first one here is a Nigerian bank account number for the participant, right, that is being onboarded, and which is obviously being validated for correctness during the account opening process. The second one is what we call the BVN, the bank verification number. The BVN is a biometric identification system that was introduced by the central bank. The BVN itself is an 11-digit number that is unique to each individual, but the same across all bank institutions for the same individual. It was originally introduced by the CBN to curb illegal banking transactions, but its use and adoption has been extended to other areas of financial transactions due to its effectiveness. And of course, lastly, we have a valid telephone number and or email address. Now, flowing from the understanding that some or perhaps most foreign participants may have challenges in meeting these requirements, again, the NGX, together with CSS, we sat down to do this review and said, okay, we've done this review, and within the context of the existing structures, is there any of these structures that we find suitable for this particular scenario? And it's on that basis that the nominee account structure for participants who fall into this category has been identified. So we're going to speak about it. The nominee account model essentially supports the understanding that the broker will be holding the shares belonging to the participant, and that's not too far off from what Lina had earlier explained in her presentation. This broker that has been nominated will not only hold the securities, but will also be tasked with the execution of trades in line with the authorized mandates of the participant. Of course, there are also market rules that guide the adoption of this model. But the key thing to emphasize here, which is what I really like us to note, is the fact that this model would help in overcoming the possible challenges that may arise as a result of the foreign participants not having or meeting the statutory KYC requirements, in the sense that the foreign participant is able to ride on the existing KYC information of the broker. Beyond the statutory KYC requirements, there are also other information that are required for account opening. Again, the advantage of this nominee account model becomes very obvious when you put this into perspective, because again, the foreign participant is able to ride on the existing information of the broker. This chart essentially displays how the account opening process will flow for this particular model. A foreign entity requests from a nominee, in this case, the broker, to create an account. The broker then initiates the account opening via the CSCS designated channels, because there is more than one channel for opening accounts. We have APIs today, we have the broker's portal, and other channels through which accounts can be opened. An account number is generated and returned back to the broker, and this concludes the process. Now, these CSCS accounts are open within a turnaround time of 24 hours. And in fact, within with the continuous deployment of innovative solutions such as the broker's portal, account numbers can now be generated in less than 5 minutes. So in closing, I would just like to say that as a critical financial market infrastructure, the CSCS is committed to contributing to the sustainable growth of the market. The CSCS also seeks consistently deploy innovative solutions that are focused on improving investor experience, that are focused on enhancing investor protection, that are focused on generally deepening the market, and would continue in that trajectory, and also bearing this in mind that as this project progresses, we would continue to ride on this principle to ensure that the solutions that we put out there to the market would help in, most importantly, improving the experience of the investor. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Babangida Yahaya from CSCS. Thank you very much for taking us to that account opening process for nominee accounts. As far as the Aelp project is concerned, we're really short for time. We're trying to have some time for a Q&A, as it were. So let's take it from CSCS and take it the way down to the Nigerian NGX regulation, speaking to Ms. Martha Ibrahim, who will be speaking to us on the side of the NGX and what needs to be done in terms of direct market access for sponsors and those who want to trade and on all of that. How does it all work from the NGX point of view? That's what Martha will be speaking to us about. Martha Ibrahim, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Permit me to proceed on existing protocols. My name is Martha Ibrahim, and I'm with NGX Regulation Limited. My CEO is Mrs. Tinoa Adeawe, and unfortunately, she will not be around today. NGX Regulation Limited provides regulatory services to NGX, that's the Nigerian Exchange Limited. So I'll be taking the presentation on the direct market access and sponsored access application requirements and processes. I know that in the course of the presentation, the next thing on our minds is what next? How can we proceed with this? And this presentation is going to take us through the necessary documentations and information to be provided to be able to go into a sponsored access and direct market access arrangements with a broker of choice. So in the interest of time, I will just go directly into the main application requirements. Okay. So first thing I want us to note is that the requirements on this slide is in line with the Aelp sponsored access and direct market access rules. If you are yet to review the documents, read the documents, please get a copy and do so after the webinar. Also, in the course of my presentation, there are two terms I would like us to note. The first is the sponsoring member, and I'm referring to the local broker or the home broker in the country, in the local country. For in Nigerian's context, I'm referring to our trading license holders, also previously called the dealing member firms. So that's for, since we're in Nigeria, our trading license, our broker dealers are called trading license holders. And for my second term is the sponsored participants. And this refers to the foreign broker in the other country. So my slide actually shows about 6 parts of the is basically divided into 6 parts of the requirements to be complied with, to be able to come into this arrangement in the Nigerian market. The 6 parts covers the application information, that's basic application information. We have human resources as a second, having the right team in place, compliance, and the third is the compliance and disciplinary status of the sponsoring member. We have the operations related information of the sponsoring member. Considering that this is a technology the arrangement is driven by technology. We also have technology requirements which needs to be fulfilled. And the last is the Aelp master agreement. So there's some agreements that need to be executed in the course of this arrangement. So speaking to the application information, we all know that every application starts with an indication of interest. So in this instance, we expect the sponsoring member to notify NGX of its intention to enter into a sponsored access arrangement with a foreign broker. The sponsoring member also will be required to complete the application form, the NGX application form. A template will be provided by NGX to the sponsoring member. Also, one of the requirements under the application information is that the sponsored participants will be required to provide an executed written certification of compliance with NGX rules and regulations. This is considering that they intend to trade in different markets. So it's important for them to understand the rules and regulations of the exchange in that market they intend to participate in. The sponsoring participants also required to provide a letter of good standing. This is from its regulator or local exchange within its country. This is to certify that the sponsored participant is a registered market participant and with an active status in its respective country. So going into human resources, the sponsoring member will be required to appoint a dedicated sponsored access officer who will be responsible for all trading activities under the arrangements. Details of this person will be required. Would also require a substantive sponsored access officer, just in the case of a change of employment. Sorry, we're requiring a substitute sponsored access officer, just in the case of a change of employment of the substantive sponsored access officer, and just to reduce the key man risks also with that role. So going to the next line, speaking to compliance and the disciplinary status of the sponsoring member. The sponsoring member will be required to confirm compliance with NGX minimum operating standards. And NGX minimum operating standards basically covers about 5 aspects and 5 different areas of a trading license holder's business. We have the manpower and equipment, just giving high level information on the minimum operating standards. We have the manpower and equipment covers that it has the right manpower, human resources in this business. We have corporate governance as the second, ensuring that there's the right corporate governance oversight on the firm's business. We have effective processes, which shows that there are set policies and procedures in place, not just documented, but also implemented in the firm. We have the fourth, which is global competitiveness. I'm just checking the global competitiveness of the firms across other for brokers in different countries. And we have technology requirements. It's a technology-driven business. So you need to have the right tools in place, software, hardware in place. So this is our minimum operating standards. This is the NGX minimum operating standards. And the sponsoring member will be required to confirm that it complies with it, and also confirm that it is not subject to any disciplinary proceedings by a statutory or regulatory body. So going into the operations of the firm, just like I mentioned, the NGX's minimum operating standards, considering the nature of the sponsored access arrangements, we expect that the sponsoring member establishes a process to monitor the sponsored participants' trading activities, and this should be embedded in its policies and standard operating procedures. An addendum would be required to these documents because we know our firms have existing documents, but would require an addendum showing that this new process has been captured, and we would require copies of that. We would also require an updated copy of the firm's business continuity plan. Now going into technology, like I had mentioned, the arrangement is based on set technology requirements. We would expect that the sponsoring member provides us the details of his OMS provider. Like I had mentioned, most of the requirements here are also covered under the minimum operating standards. So it's basically not new information, but just for this particular arrangement, we need to ensure that certain things are put in place, and we'll be requiring the information of the firm's OMS provider. And finally, one of the major requirements is the agreements. We note that an arrangement of this manner will require formal agreements amongst the parties involved, and the parties in this case will be the NGX providing the trading environment. We have the sponsoring member, who is the local broker and the home broker, and we have the sponsored participant, who is the foreign broker. So it is expected that there will be an agreement amongst these parties. And the Aelp master agreements have 3 sets of agreements to be executed by the sponsoring member. The first is the sponsoring member's agreement with NGX. The second agreement to be executed is the sponsoring member and sponsored participants agreement. And the third will be the sponsoring member's notification of intent to provide sponsored access and direct market access to the sponsored participants through the NGX's trading systems. So we have templates to be provided in the application pack. So you're not going out to look for how to draft an agreement. We have template agreements which will just be streamlined or customized to the different aspects of each of the businesses and the nature of the arrangements between both parties. So in summary, this slide highlights the various information and documentations to be provided. We expect that the application form and supporting documents must be complete before submission. This is speaking to our trading license holders. Please ensure that you fill the form adequately and provide all supporting documents. Without a complete application pack, we would not be able to review and process your application in a timely fashion. So please take your time to look at the to fill the form and provide all supporting documents. Just to also mention is that the letter of good standing should be translated in English, considering that English is Nigeria's official language. We expect that the letter of good standing received from various exchanges or regulators be translated in English before submitting to NGX and NGX Record. So I'll be going into the second part of my presentation. So the second part of my presentation is covering the application process within the NGX and NGX Record once an application is submitted. This is like a process flow. I'm sure you can see my slides to see the flow, but I think there are just two instances to note. The first is that where the application is incomplete, although we have advised that you should send us a complete pack, but in situations where there's incomplete information or documentation, the firm is duly notified by NGX Record of the outstanding documentations for submission. And the second instance is where the sponsoring member's application is complete. NGX Record will review the documents and make a recommendation to NGX. NGX will communicate its approval and to the sponsoring member, and also enable the direct market access and sponsored access for the sponsoring member. So this is NGX upon granting approval to the sponsoring member, will set up the sponsoring member on the trading system to be able to allow for this type of arrangements with the respective foreign broker. All right, so this brings me to the end of my presentation. I'll be available to address any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Martha Ibrahim from Nigerian Regulation, RegCo Limited. Thank you so much for providing those information that are needed for those who are broker dealers and those who will participate in terms of the registration, minimum operating standards, and the corporate governance and all that. Of course, it's all part of what will make the system very robust. I'm sure the president of ASEA touched on that, and Lena also spoke about that briefly earlier, to ensure that all the systems, all participants are up to date in terms of meeting regulatory requirements across our home country, and again, of course, across border, as participating market professionals in the ecosystem. Thank you so much, Martha. We appreciate that. Now, I think it's time for us to have what you call an inside person speak to the entire process. Chapel Hill Denham is a major sponsor, a supporter of this, supporting organization of this event organized by the Nigerian Exchange Limited, and we'll be hearing from Akeem Shadari, who is the CEO of Chapel Hill Denham, to speak to us on how this has been going on, what's been required, what's been done so far, and then we would like to hear from him, because some of the questions coming through from some of our participants for this particular event is in relation to how does it work out with the broker organizations? How do I get registered? How do I transfer? Whatever, what is the settlement, clearing, and all of that? So I'm sure you bring us up to speed on that. And of course, speak to the project, sort of the trade that you were able to do as far as Sonanta was concerned on the BRVM. That would be good if you bring that in as the case study for us. Thank you so much. Akeem, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Omofaye. I'd like to also stand on existing protocols. And, this is a very exciting day for us in the Bookrich community in Nigeria. So I'll just run through the slides. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions to ask later. So I know Lena has spoken about a few of the, the market structure and so. Just a quick recap. The African Exchanges Linkage Program was an initiative to create interconnectivity between among African exchanges, and the main purpose is to drive growth and development, right? And it was an initiative by the African Securities Exchanges Association, which was supported by the African Development Bank. And the whole essence is to promote liquidity, to also help capital market in terms of capital flow as well. As at December, right, we had 7 exchanges, BRVM, Casablanca Stock Exchange in Morocco, Johannesburg Stock Exchange in South Africa, the Nairobi Securities Exchange in Kenya, the Nigerian Exchange in Nigeria, Stock Exchange of Mauritius, and the Egyptian Exchange in Egypt. I think there's few dates that we need to celebrate, and we also need to take note in this, in this historic transaction. Number one is the day Aelp went live, which was on the 19th of November 2022, right? And the first trade, which was done by Chapel Denham Securities Limited, and the final version intermediation in Dakar, Senegal, which is a member of the BRVM Stock Exchange. So my main focus today is to just speak about, give you a first-hand experience on how how the trade happened. So basically, I'm going to, the presentation will be in two parts. The first one is the documentation process, where we engage with the counterparty, how we engage with the counterparty and how the trade was done. So I'll divide the first documentation process, the pre-transaction process, into 5 stages. The first one was the reciprocal master agreement, which is in line with the ASEA Aelp framework, where there was an agreement between Chapel Hill Denham Securities GI to enter into an agreement where Chapel Denham Securities acted as a sponsoring local broker for FGI, whereas in the BRVM they also acted as local broker sponsoring us, Chapel Denham Securities, as a foreign broker. So the next stage was, there was an application which Martha just spoke to now, where we had to apply for direct market access. Upon approval, there was a KYC process, and the depository account was open in both exchanges. Then afterwards, it was, and I would like to say a big thank you again to Lena, for the project manager of this great project, right? She was very, very helpful, and within 24 hours, we were able to get, linked up and set up to trade on the platform called, it's called the Direct FN Trading Terminal. That was the platform where, both brokers we used to do the actual execution of the trade. Then after we completed all the 4 stages, ourselves and FGI, we felt it was very important to have like an interactive section, have a quick knowledge sharing session, to have a conversation on, the differences in the common things about our market and differences about it, which, I think that session was really perfect. So it involved both the traders, our colleagues in operations, and also the compliance officer. So we were able to have serious conversations around, how this transaction will go. And we also involved our research team just to give them information on, what drives the market in Nigeria as well. When it comes to the actual trade, after decision was made, so it's almost the same thing, right? But I'll focus more on, the side of, me being the local broker executing for FGI, right? The first thing was to pre-fund their depository account, which, they did a swift instruction. Perhaps the Pan-African payment settlement and the Pan-African payment settlement system, right? As mentioned by the presenter earlier, right? There are still some things we can, there are still some things that are still not possible in Nigeria at the moment. And I'm very happy when he mentioned that right now it has been rectified, right? And I also like to say, right, that beyond this transaction, Chapel was also the first to execute a PAPS transaction where there was a transaction between ourselves and a stockbroking firm, which is our sister company in Accra. So the first step for the trading part of it is the foreign brokers refunded the account, right? And the second stage will be to send an instruction using the DF, that's the direct FN trading terminal. So once we receive the instruction on that terminal, the instruction is being accepted by the local broker, then the actual execution is being done on the local traders Extreme trading platform. Once the trade has been executed, there is a child order on DF, the direct FN trading terminal, which was filled, and subsequently a contract note was issued. On T+3, right, the security settled and the cash moved. So the whole process was very, very seamless. And, it's something, that would encourage, will solve a lot of African problems, which, has been highlighted earlier by the previous speakers. But the last slide, just to give 4 major benefits of this project. Number one is going to increase liquidity in the market because, at the moment, the 7 exchanges accounted for about 1.5 billion in terms of market capitalization. We believe that, pooling investors will increase the liquidity of all the participating exchanges, which, something that is a welcome development. And in terms of improved transparency, by connecting all the exchanges, we also believe that it will improve price discovery across all those markets as well. Enhanced, we believe that the Aelp program would also improve regulatory cooperation. It will promote cooperation among our regulators in Africa and will also help to create a more robust and effective regulatory environment for African capital markets. And lastly, it provides a greater cross-border investment opportunity. So beyond just trading your local market, right, you can also trade a more diversified market, given that there's still some different economic factors across Africa. I think beyond everything, I think there is significant benefits for all African countries participating in this project, and it will enhance economic growth and also development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Akeem Shadari, the CEO at Chapel Hill Denham. Thank you so much. We appreciate your bringing this up to speak. Just explain that Sonantel transaction. And of course, this is how the market works, because we've seen, according to reports out of the BRVM, that Sonantel is accounting for about 40% of turnover volume on the BRVM. Over the past couple of sessions that came out just a few days ago, I think towards the end of last week. So we've seen the fact that, yes, as we open up African markets through the AEPO, the African Exchange Linkage project, we will be able to see increased transactions, volume, and turnover. We're talking about 1.5 trillion US dollars markets here in one single destination for both local and foreign international investors across Sub-Saharan Africa. This is as huge as it can get. So this is one major, like you rightly put it, Akeem, this is a game changer. This is a new horizon, and we congratulate all of you who have been able to be part of this system. I look forward to this. I've been in the market reporter for many, many years. I've looked forward to the day when we can have a one-stop, one single destination for African markets where you could trade stocks, bonds, ETFs, everything under one single umbrella. And that will provide liquidity to a lot of smaller markets across Africa. The exposure will be there, the research work will be there, and we'll be able to have a truly Pan-African continent as far as the market is concerned. I'm sure the IPO market, as Nina spoke about earlier, will be a whole lot much bigger if you have one IPO opens in Nigeria or in Egypt or in Mauritius or on the BRVM, and then we can all have everyone across the continent participate, and not just the citizens of one single country. So this is open skies, as I will put it, for African financial markets, the securities market, and then regulation. There will be far more cooperation, regulation, coordination among all the securities exchanges across the continent. And that will go a whole lot to in improving the entire financial system of the African continent. Thank you very much, Chapel Hill, to Akim, thank you so much, and the rest of your team. And congratulations for making that Sonatel deal. And of course, I'm sure other participants who are also market institutions are also having their own deals. We'll be hearing from all of you as the days go ahead. But as I said earlier, we need to see how we can report this in the media, not just for Nigerian media, but across every other traditional media on the African continent, and for international media organizations as well. How do we get the trading data out? How do we get, as I said to Ms. Lina earlier, how do we get the trading information out on a daily basis or weekly basis, the deals that are made? How can we project and give the exposure that this Aelp project really deserves? Aelp is doing so much, ASIA is doing so much, but we need the traditional media in Africa and others around the world to support this and give this the whole exposure that it really deserves. We're waiting to see how we can get transactions on a daily basis from you, who are the dealers in this particular system, and of course, maybe from ASIA as time goes and whatever. I'm sure that could be worked out as quickly as possible so that we can all celebrate what is this major horizon for the African continent. Thank you so much. Let's take a few quick Q&A. I'm sure quite a number of the questions being asked have been answered by some of the speakers from Osita Dema from the PAPSS, as well as Martha from NGX Rex, as well as the CSCS, and now Chapel Hill Denham. If we still have any other question there, I'm not too sure if anyone is really still holding on as far as our questions is concerned. But let's see some of the a point being raised for in the Q&A. I'm sure we have time for a few of them, but I don't want us to miss out the point that has to do with the currency being used. I'm sure that has been cleared up as well. The currency is the host country's currency, and of course the clearing settlement. I look forward to the next level, what is called the phase 2 of this particular project, the announcement that will come from Nigeria that will open things up as we begin to see Nigeria moving towards a fully floated exchange rate, which is the breaking news as we speak right now. Let me quickly hand over to Jude Chiemeka, who is the divisional head in charge of capital markets, the NGX, to give us what we call the closing remarks, as it were, as we move on to the final few minutes of this event. Jude Chiemeka, if you're there, let's hear from you. What are your thoughts so far about this 2-hour event, and then what is next from the NGX? I give that to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Boston. This is Kenneth. On behalf of Jude Chiemeka, who is the divisional head capital market, I make this presentation this afternoon to do this closing remarks. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Marshall McLean in 1962 predicted that technology will simplify the distribution of information worldwide. He believed that interconnectedness through technology would create a global village. Today, we can see that through the African Exchange Linkage Project platform. Investors through the brokers can connect with other African exchanges and trade among themselves. Regional integration via trade creates market stability, financial inclusiveness, peace, and wealth required for transforming economies. For Africa to remain relevant in the Committee of Nations, we have to constantly improve on this process that will enhance transparency and engender cross-border listens, cross-border participation in public offerings, and corporate actions that foster African cooperation for the benefit of our shared values. On this note, therefore, I would like to see this opportunity to thank once again the Aelp project manager, Lena, and her team, and everyone for making out time to participate and identify with landmark and this laudable project. Indeed, Africa is on the rise. Without any hesitation, I'm sure that you are pleased with the productive deliberations, the learnings, the contributions from subject matter experts in the course of this webinar. Today's presentations have provided broad insights into the African Nation Linkage project concept and a better understanding of the immense benefits of efficiently facilitating cross-border transactions across the African continent. The webinar touched on key areas such as documentation requirements, like Martha had said, account opening from the CSCS, seamless payment systems through the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System PAPS, and potential benefits this window of opportunity will open to sub-Saharan Africa. Our team is certain that all participants in today's event have derived immense value for their time. Thoughts, trusting that these would culminate in awareness and interest in the Aelp project among stakeholders and serve as a catalyst for achieving the set goals and objectives. We are hopeful that this initiative would culminate in improved capital flow, enhanced liquidity, efficient pricing, and deepen the market across the continent. I would at this juncture therefore reiterate that the exchange will continue to leverage relationships and partnerships to organize various webinars and conferences to support market education that will enhance financial literacy and inclusiveness. Finally, on behalf of the Board of Directors, Management, and staff of the Nigerian Exchange Limited, I would like to thank the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, ably represented today by Mr. Mahmoud Mota, and the Chief Executives of Botswana Stock Exchange, the Angels Regulation Company, Angels Recall, the Central Securities and Clearing System, the CSCS, and Pan-African Payment and Settlement Systems, PAPS, and all other speakers. Their presence has been invaluable and without any doubt has helped make this event a huge, huge success. We are profoundly grateful to our esteemed partners and sponsors, the Central Securities and Clearing System, Stanbic IBTC Stockbrokers Limited, Chapel Hill Denham Limited, Cordros Securities Limited, for their tireless efforts during the testing phase and to ensure the realization of this initiative. I thank all our speakers for the time and knowledge sharing. It was indeed a very insightful one. My profound gratitude also goes to all stakeholders and the investing public. Your support and presence are very much appreciated. Now it's time for action. I thank you all for joining the webinar. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenneth Harry. On behalf of Jude Chemika, who's the divisional head in charge of capital markets at Nigerian Exchange Limited. Thank you for those great words of our closing remarks. Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this. I'm sure a number of questions being asked, been provided with answers through the back room, which I'm sure. Thank you so much, Ms. Lena, for doing some of the good work there with the team of the Nigerian Exchange Limited in terms of giving answers. There are a few questions, however. Are you still in the room, Lena? If you're there, if there's only one single question I would want to take from the Q&A, just a quick one, if you can handle that within just a minute. Lena, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Just one other question was that in terms of dispute resolution, how will it work?
All right, so the legal committee of the Aelp, which is made up of representatives from the different exchanges, have worked on a dispute resolution document, and that has also or will be provided to all the brokers. But then the implementation of that will be guided by the African Securities Exchanges Association. So we do have a dispute resolution in place, and yes, that would be guided in that sense.
Okay, thank you so much, Alina. I'm going to ask very quickly at the NGS regulation, Ms. Amartha, in terms of a broker-dealer, so will there be additional need for additional capital? In a manner of speaking, if I want to be a broker under the AELP, would you require me to have additional capital as a brokerage firm? Martha?
All right, thank you. No additional capital is required from our trading license holders.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And that's understandable. Thank you. I'm sure all our participants, hundreds of you, thank you so much. Of course, everyone would want to have a copy of the presentations made by the president of the ASEA Secretariat and the CEO of Botswana Stock Exchange, Mr. Cielo, as well as Ms. Lena Tino, as well as Martha, yourself, and Shadari from Chapel Hill Denham and from PAPSS who go as well. So please, I'm sure the team at the Nigerian Exchange has the contact of all those who are registered as participants for this event. So kindly share them as generously as you can. We'll really appreciate it. We thank you everyone for making this happen today. This webinar brought to you by Nigerian Exchange Limited, ASEA, as well as partners to the Nigerian Exchange on the African continent, as well as the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, the PAPSS, the PAPS. Thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate your time. Have a great day, everyone. And let's get together very soon for updates on the African Exchange Linkage project. I am Bosun Ofai. Thank you, everyone, for being part of this, especially our key speakers from ASEA, from PAPSS, from Nigerian Exchange, the CSCS, Chapel Hill Denham, representing some of our sponsors and supporters for this event. Thank you all, and I wish you all the best. I am Bosun Ofai. I'm signing off officially on this webinar. Thank you, and au revoir. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.